Till now, we were talking about section 9, subsection 3, which was talking about the cases where the liability to pay the GST is on the recipient of the service. In today's class, we will be discussing about services given by government. Now the first question comes, if government is giving service to anyone, should they pay GST? The answer is yes, there is GST if government is giving services to anyone. Now the second question comes, who has to pay GST if government is giving services? Whether government itself have to pay GST or the person who is receiving the service from the government, whether he has to pay the GST. So this will be the discussion for our today's class. While learning on what services reverse charge mechanism applies, even before knowing this, we need to understand on what services RCM does not apply. So I repeat the entire sentence again because this is very important. Before understanding on what RCM applies, we need to understand on what services RCM does not apply. There are four services on which reverse charge mechanism provisions does not apply, right? So today we will be discussing about when government is giving services to business entity, and on what cases RCM does not apply. That means on all the remaining cases RCM applies. We will have a discussion about it later. First let us see these four scenarios where RCM does not apply. First thing is, it talks about renting of immovable property. Let us take an example to understand this. Say there is a playground owned by the government. Usually government owns most of the playgrounds in towns and cities. Now government has rented this immovable property, that is playground, to a business entity. Government rented out an immovable property to a business entity. In this case, reverse charge mechanism is not applicable. That means, say when a government rented that playground, it's at 10,000 rupees per day. 10,000, along with 10,000, government will only collect the tax portion, right? So government will collect 10,000 plus tax portion from the business entity. That means reverse charge is not applicable here. So that was the first entry, that is renting of immovable property. Now let us talk about services given by Postal Department. Postal Department gives many services. Services like normal post, registered post, speed post. Also you can open your SB account, RD account. These many different services and many more. But here they are saying if postal departments are providing four types of activities, then RCM does not apply. So what are those four activities? The first one they are talking about speed post. Okay, so if postal department is providing a service of speed post to a business entity, RCM not applicable, right? So on speed post, RCM is not applicable. That means government will only collect, that is postal department will only collect GST from you. The next one is express parcel post. First one was speed post, next one is express parcel post. Now, if a postal department is giving an express parcel post service, they will only collect GST. That means RCM is not applicable. The next one is life insurance service. Postal department also provides life insurance services. You can open an insurance account there. Now, if a postal office is providing a life insurance service, they will only collect GST from you. That means RCM again is not applicable. The last one is agency services. Postal department acts as agent mostly to the business entities. Now the question comes, where it is acting as an agent? Let us take an example to understand this. Say I am a business. Okay, say I am Reliance and I want to open a mutual fund. Okay, I am Reliance and I have a mutual fund of mine. So instead of collecting money from people directly, I will appoint post office as my agent. So I am Reliance. Instead of collecting money from people directly towards my mutual fund, I will appoint postal department as my agent. So now postal department is providing agency services to me. If postal department is providing agency services to business entity, RCM is not applicable. So again I am reminding you, on these activities RCM is not applicable. So which are those activities? Let me repeat. First one was speed post, express parcel post. Next one was life insurance services, and the last one was the agency services. So on all these services, RCM is not applicable. Now let us talk about services with relation to port and airport. That is the second P. They are saying if government is providing any services in port or airport, RCM is not applicable. That means if government is collecting port charges from the shipping companies, RCM is not applicable. Or if government is collecting any fees from the airlines companies, then again RCM is not applicable. Now let us discuss the last T. So in PPT, first we discussed Postal Department, then we discussed service in port or airport. Last T stands for transportation of goods or transportation of passengers. So if government is providing service by way of transportation of goods or transportation of passengers, and if GST has to be collected, government will only collect. So if there is any GST on transportation of passengers, say there is AC train, okay, there is first class train what you are traveling, and if there is GST on that, government will only collect. So the recipient need not pay under reverse charge mechanism. So in nutshell, we were discussing about the services on which RCM does not apply. I repeat the entire point again because it is important. We were discussing about the services on which reverse charge mechanism does not apply. So which were those services? It was renting of immovable property and PPT services. PPT stands for Postal Department, Port and Airport. Last T stands for transportation of goods and transportation of passengers. So on all these things, RCM does not apply. Now, if government is providing any services to a business entity which does not fall under these categories, then RCM is applicable. I repeat the point. Apart from these four services, any other service if government is giving to a business entity, then RCM is applicable. Let us take an example to understand this. Government provided a security services to a business entity. Government provided a security service to a business entity. In this case, the business entity should pay tax under reverse charge mechanism. But if government is providing service by way of speed post, then RCM is not applicable. But if government is providing any other services like security services, then RCM is applicable and the business entity should pay GST to the government.